Dungeons & Dragons is the biggest name in tabletop roleplaying, but that doesn't mean it gets everything right. Because let me tell you, the more I run Shadowdark, the more I realize just how much D&D could learn from it. Shadowdark is fast, it's simple, it's brutal in all the right ways, and most importantly, it's fun. It strips the game down to its core and rebuilds it with a laser focus on actual gameplay at the table. Now, this isn't just a D&D is bad rant. I've played D&D for decades. I like D&D. I literally joined an online D&D game as a player just a few weeks ago. However, sometimes Goliath can learn a thing or two from David. Hello folks, welcome to the DM Layer. I'm Luke Hart, and on this channel I share my nearly 30 years of Game Master experience so that you can run amazing games that your players will love. And today we're diving into 7 lessons D&D can learn from Shadowdark. Some of these are design level changes, some are philosophical, but all of them come from a game that's winning players over by doing more with less. Now, as much as I love Shadowdark, I'm still a big fan of D&D, and that's why I spent the last year and a half longer actually, working on our upcoming Kickstarter. Now, we were just going to give you a D&D 5e adventure module and some monsters, but my team and I kept on having a nagging feeling. As much as I loved what we were making, we knew we could do better. We knew we could make it bigger and more exhilarating. Thus, I present to you Feybound, Trickery of the Wilds, the biggest, baddest, Fey-themed expansion for D&D 5e ever created. And we're bringing it to you soon on Kickstarter. And guys, I am so stoked about this one. This is the Fey expansion that every Dungeon Master and player will want to have, demand to have. Check out everything that we're gonna stuff into this book. A sprawling Fey campaign setting, 6 vibrant new player races, 10 wildly creative subclasses, a treasure trove of magic items, dynamic Fey gameplay mechanics, over 100 twisted and unforgettable monsters, and Escape from the Fey, a level 5 to 11 adventure module featuring 12 full-length story-rich adventures. So if you want to get everything you need to bring the chaos, whimsy, and wilds of the Fey to life in your games, follow Feybound, Trickery of the Wilds on Kickstarter at the link below right now. We're gonna launch very soon, and we're gonna have early backer specials for just the first few days only that you won't want to miss. Number 1, you don't need 50 people to make a great book. When I first picked up Shadowdark, I flipped to the credits page and saw something wild. One person, Kelsey Dion, is listed as the writer, designer, and layout artist. Just one person. There are 8 credited artists, sure, but in terms of actual book creation, this was a one-person operation. Compare that to D&D 5th edition 2024. The credits read like the end of a Marvel movie. There's a lead designer, 5 additional designers, 3 rules developers, 4 editors, 4 playtest analysts. Wait, they had playtesters? Because I wasn't even aware that happened. Then there's a swarm of artists, 2 art directors, 3 graphic designers, a concept art director, several concept artists, half a dozen consultants, half a dozen more consultants, and producers. And that's just the player handbook. And yet Shadowdark is the game with the hype. It's building momentum. Players love it. Meanwhile, most comments I see about D&D 2024 are either frustrated, sarcastic, or confused. So maybe, just maybe, quality doesn't scale with the size of the team. Number 2, fewer rules actually improves the game. One of the first things you'll notice when you open Shadowdark is how little time you spend reading rules and how quickly you get to actually playing the game. Onboarding new players, it's a breeze. I handed a player the book, they made a character in 5 minutes, we were rolling dice in 10. And because the rules are light, the game flexes. If your group wants combat-heavy dungeon crawling, it works. I've done that a lot with Shadow Crawl, I can't even say it. If you want to role play for an hour and a half in a tavern or spend 3 sessions exploring weird Fey ruins, it works. I've done that. I'm currently running a heist in Shadowdark. The rules don't get in the way. They open doors instead of closing them. Compare that to D&D 2024. Somehow they took a system that already leaned heavy and doubled down. In 2024, compared to 2014 version, there are more rules, more subsystems, and more edge cases. It feels like every cool moment has to be followed up by checking 3 paragraphs of mechanical clarification. Yes, I'm exaggerating to make a point, but not by much. Shadowdark shows us that the best rule sets don't need to explain every possibility. They just need to trust the game master and players. Number 3, gameplay is faster. Let me be clear, faster doesn't always mean better. And when it comes to D&D, one of the most common complaints I hear from players is, why does combat take so long? And they're not wrong. In 5th edition, even a simple 3-on-3 fight can drag on for 30 minutes or more. And there's only so much the dungeon master can do to fix that. The real culprit is the sheer weight of the rules. Bonus actions, reactions, movement, positioning, spells, saving throws, class features, and legendary actions, it piles up fast. But Shadowdark, it moves. Combat is fast, brutal, and decisive. Turns go by in seconds, and you usually know who's winning or dying within a round or two. There's no bloat slowing things down. You get in, you roll your dice, and you keep the tension high. And the best part? Players stay engaged because they're not waiting 15 minutes for their next turn, or more sometimes. Shadowdark shows you that you can keep combat exciting without turning every fight into a tactical thesis paper. By the way, if you're finding this information useful, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a fun comment below. I'll leave what constitutes fun up to your discretion. I trust you. Maybe I shouldn't. Number 4. It's easier and faster for the game master to prep a game. Right now, I'm running 3 campaigns. A D&D 5th edition game using the 2024 rules, a Pathfinder 2 game, and a Shadowdark game. And let me tell you, the difference in prep time is dramatic. Pathfinder 2 takes me the longest to prep. No surprise there. It's a rules-heavy system with a lot of moving parts. For most adventures, I have to customize the monsters too, and that takes time. D&D is better. It's more streamlined by a little bit, and I usually get a session ready with far less pain. But Shadowdark, it's not even close. I can prep a Shadowdark session at lightning pace. It's simple, it's clear, and it's ready to run. I wish I could tell you why it's like this, but honestly, I'm not sure I really know. But there just seems to be this direct correlation between how many rules a game has and how long it takes me to prep it. If you've got any theories on why this happens, please let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on that. Number 5, it's easier for a game master to run a Shadowdark game. And here I'm talking about during this session, when you're in the moment, juggling rules, players, NPCs, initiative, monsters, and trying to keep the game moving. Pathfinder 2 is the hardest for me to run at the table. It's packed with fiddly rules, extra modifiers, action economy quirks, conditions, exceptions to conditions, and then of course referencing this rule points at this rule, I gotta look up that rule, and it points at this rule, and I gotta look up that rule. It's this web of rules that you have to cross-reference or have memorized. And even though I've run a lot of Pathfinder for over a year now, which I suppose you could say isn't that much Pathfinder 2, but that's not like, a month. Over a year is a pretty decent amount every 2 weeks of running Pathfinder. That's not bad. But even despite that, I still find myself looking stuff up mid-session. It slows things down. Now, D&D 5th edition is easier. There are fewer mechanics to track, meaning fewer roadblocks during play. And to be fair, I've been playing D&D 5th edition for a lot longer, so I know a lot of the things. Though I am running the new 2024 rules, which I haven't actually read very much of, so I'm just kind of winging it. So, grain of salt, I suppose, would be fair here. But Shadowdark is smooth. It's lean. If a player wants to do something and there's no rule for it, because many times there isn't, I just call for an ability check that makes sense. Maybe improvise a ruling, and we move on. I'm not flipping pages or diving into a rule book. It just flows. And sure, you can do that in Pathfinder or D&D as well. But if you're improvising or homebrewing on the fly, half the mechanics anyway, why are you using a system that's fighting you the whole time? Number 6, artwork does not make a bad book good. Let's be real, the artwork in the 2024 version of D&D 5th edition is absolutely stunning. It's some of the best fantasy art I've ever seen in a TTRPG book. Full page illustrations, half page, quarter page, whatever, dynamic character designs, rich colors, you name it. But that didn't stop the complaints, did it? Beautiful art couldn't mask the issues people had with the rules, the bloat, or the lack of meaningful improvements, or the problems that were introduced, or the problems that were left unaddressed. Now, contrast that with Shadowdark. It doesn't have nearly as much artwork, and certainly not at the same scale, but nobody complains. I've never seen anybody complain about the artwork in Shadowdark. Most people have said that it looks cool, it's old school, and they like it. It fits the theme and the tone. So why does nobody complain? Because the strength of the book of any book isn't in the illustrations. When you're talking about a game system, the strength is in the rules. If it plays well, if it's simple or complex and burdensome, does it feel exciting at the game table? Those are the things that people care about. The art is there to reinforce the tone, not to carry the entire product. And to be clear, I do think the artwork in Shadowdark is great. It's stellar, it's amazing, I like it. So please don't take this as me like knocking the artwork or something. If that's where you go, then you're missing the entire point. But yes, we do expect art in our RPG books, that's fair. But amazing visuals can't save a lackluster system. A good book needs good rules, and that's where Shadowdark shines. Number 7, Shadowdark encourages player ingenuity. One of the best things Shadowdark does is force players to stop thinking like character sheets and start thinking like adventurers. In D&D, players often ask, do I have a feature that lets me do X? And they scour their character sheet trying to figure out if they can do it or not. They look for the exact right spell, feat, or ability that was pre-written to solve their current problem. And if that's not there, they freeze. Or worse, they assume they can't do anything. But in Shadowdark, that kind of thinking doesn't work. It doesn't even really exist. The game doesn't hand players a toolbox of hyper-defined class abilities and niche spells for every situation. Shoot, what your class is and does is usually on one page, and then the other page of the spread, it's an image, it's an illustration. Instead, Shadowdark leaves space for creativity. You see, players come alive with this. Suddenly they're tying ropes together to reach a ledge, pouring out oil flasks to set traps, bribing goblins with pocket jerky. And instead of asking, do I have something that lets me do this, they ask the game master, can I try this? That subtle shift makes a big difference. Shadowdark rewards players who engage with the world, not just with their build. And that's exactly the kind of gameplay I want at my table. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to follow Feybound, Trickery of the Wilds at the link below. Get the biggest Fey-themed expansion for D&D 5e ever created. Now, if you'd like to learn how to run a game where your players take on the role of the gods themselves, check out this video right here. And until next time, happy game mastering.